Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty has been sold to CF Montreal for up to $1.3 million in general allocation money depending on performance incentives. A transfer that shocked many across the TFC fandom in the past week. Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty, Toronto FC's golden boy, the youngest signing in Toronto FC history when he signed back in 2020 as a 15-year-old, the youngest player in Toronto FC history when he made an appearance in that 2020 season, and a guy who was hyped up to be the greatest player to ever come out of the Toronto FC Academy, has been traded to CF Montreal. When he turned 18 back in 2022, Marshall-Rutty was being rumored to be linked to European teams, and Toronto FC reportedly had a $20 million price tag attached to him, which makes selling him 2 years later for just over $1 million in MLS Garber money a shocking disappointment to Toronto FC fans, and is causing more people to look at the entire Toronto FC Academy as a whole, because it just is another in a long line of failures of Toronto FC to develop academy prospects. Throughout the years, a lot of exciting prospects have come out of the Toronto FC Academy. Guys like Liam Fraser, Noble Okello, Ralph Priso, Marshall-Rutty, guys who had a lot of hype coming out of the academy and then had their development completely stagnate or slow down once they hit Toronto FC and never really became stalwarts for the TFC first team. Now, the academy is not supposed to bring you stars on the regular, but the fact that not a single player who has come out of the TFC Academy has become not even a star, but a true important player on this team when they've been good is shocking. Like, the most important player for Toronto FC that's come out of the TFC Academy so far has been Ashton Morgan, and you can argue that the best players ever to have come out of the TFC Academy are Daniil Henry and Jacob Schaffelberg, both of whose best moments came beyond Toronto FC. And Marshall-Rutty is just the biggest thorn in the side, because Marshall-Rutty was supposed to be him. He was the most highly touted prospect ever to go through the TFC Academy. He was supposed to be a generational talent, and at 20 years old he could still be that. He still is young enough that he can go to Montreal and still develop and become a solid player and go to Europe and be a solid player for the national team and just throughout his career in general. It's just the fact that it's become apparently clear that this is as far as he can get at Toronto FC, which is disappointing. Like, the fact that, yeah, $1.3 million in general allocation money is a decent return for him, but this is a guy who is supposed to be a superstar for you. This is a guy who is supposed to be the next Alphonso Davies, possibly, and the fact that this is all you're getting out of him is a disappointment. And the fact that, like, now we all kind of know that there's a high probability that Marshall-Rutty is going to go to Montreal, be way better than he ever was at Toronto FC, get the big move to Europe, and be a star. And the fact that that could still happen, but it's not going to happen with Toronto FC, is just upsetting. We would love nothing more for a Canadian homegrown talent to develop, become a star at TFC, and then go abroad. Like, that would be a fantastic pipeline. It has not happened yet. With Marshall-Rutty, like, he was the guy that was supposed to happen with. If it doesn't happen with him, who's it going to happen with? Because he was supposed to be a layup of a prospect, and somehow we even managed to fumble him. And that makes you want to look at the entire way we look at developing prospects once they hit the senior level, because it seems like once guys hit the senior level of Toronto FC, that's it. They plateau. There's no more strong growth up. It like curves off logarithmically. They get a little bit better, but then they just flatten out. Regardless of who the GM is, regardless of who the coach is, regardless of who the president is, it's the same regardless of who's in charge of the front office. That's just what happens with TFC Academy prospects. And to be honest, I'm not sure what the solution is to this developmental hurdle. Like, I get that when you're a competitive team, it's hard to insert youth into the team and have them perform and elevate the team's level. But the team hasn't even been good the past 5 years, and they still can't develop youth when there's no goal of like being a competitive team in the playoffs or anything, or for Supporter Shield or anything. Like, it's not like there's a strong veteran presence on this team that cannot be usurped and have their spots be taken away from them. It's just that the team's so disjointed that whenever any youth players actually get into the team sucks. The players around them are disjointed, disgruntled, nothing's happening well, and it's not a good developmental situation. They need more consistency, they need more consistent performances. The team needs to be better, and with that, it needs to be a better situation for the youth to develop. If the team's bad, that's fine. There's just, I think also with the injury troubles, too much rotation on a daily basis. Like, there needs to be more consistency around these youngsters to allow them to develop better. And I mean, I think that's part of the problem too with Marshall-Rutty. We had something like 4 different coaches throughout his 5 years at Toronto FC. Like, how's a guy supposed to develop under those circumstances? Actually, no, he started under Vanny and from Dunfield. That's 6 different coaches in 5 years for Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty. Like, how's he supposed to develop under those circumstances? Now, Marshall-Rutty is still an exciting talent. He still could be a useful player for the national team going forward. I mean, he's 20 years old. Look at Jacob Schaffelberg. He didn't become an important player for the national team until he was 25. So, a lot of time for Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty to still develop and become a star player for Canada. It's just not going to happen with Toronto FC, and that's just a massive disappointment, as he was supposed to be the TFC Academy layup, and now, you know, he had a good start at TFC, but if he really shoots off from here, CF Montreal gets to take credit for that, and that'll hurt. But best of luck to Marshall-Rutty at Montreal. I legitimately hope he turns out still to be a great player. It would just be par for the course for him to go and be a fantastic player at Montreal, and TFC gets to sit there holding the bag of another lost prospect. But I am interested to see what TFC is going to do with the GAM bag. This season has been just so unpredictable so far. Like, I'm not sure, are we a playoff team? Are we not a playoff team? What's going on? I'm not really sure. It's going to be interesting to see what we do with the rest of that GAM. The deadline, I think, is like closing immediately. So mostly this will be improvement for next year, which, yay, more improvement for future years. That won't really pan out to anything maybe, but who knows. We have some GAM for next season, so hopefully we bring in some good players with that. Marshall-Rutty gets a fresh start, which I think will be very beneficial to him. All around, good deal for everyone right now. It just should have been better for Marshall-Rutty at Toronto FC. So that does it for this video. As always, hit like if you want to see more of my stuff. Hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.